Hey, welcome to the No Guts, No Game podcast. This podcast is dedicated to help you navigate the journey of buying a Sandler franchise. So whether you've just started the investigation or you're knee deep into the decision process, we've got you covered. Hi, I'm Dave Mattson, Executive Chairman and President of Franchising here at Sandler. In each episode, I'm interviewing a Sandler franchisee who is in your shoes. Now, maybe they were investigating 2 years ago or 2 months ago, but they're gonna share their experiences, their insights, the questions that they had when they were sitting in your chair. The goal of the podcast is to provide you valuable information and firsthand accounts from their perspective that will help you in your decision-making process for you and your family. So sit back, relax, and get ready to hear from those who have already jumped into entrepreneurship with a Sandler franchise. Hey, Doug, thanks for joining us on the No Guts, No Game podcast.
My pleasure to be here. Thanks, Dave.
So, Doug, you are unusual in a lot of ways, I'm sure. And so,
Thank you.
yeah, I know. I thought about it as I heard myself say that. Um, what I mean by that is, you are. I mean, you now. How long have you been in the franchise as a franchisee? How long is this now?
About 5 months.
Okay, so 5 months. In addition to being brand new, which I think is a perspective that people would love to hear about, like what does it look like for a brand new person? We're going to add a level of complexity here in two different ways. One, the amount of change that has happened over the last 6 to 9 months, and maybe closer to a year if we add your baby in there, is just amazing to me. You've got a brand new business. You have your firstborn, right? So congrats again. So you've got baby boy's coming like right up on a year.
Yep.
You have moved out of where you lived. You're in a temporary home. Then you just bought your house, right? You finally found the place that you would like to live on. All this is going on at the same time that you're trying to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people would say that's way too much, like too much change is going on. Let me get myself settled. I'll call you in a year or two, Sandler. Love to do it, but just a lot of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we should go backwards in time, because then I'm going to add another level of complexity, which is you weren't going into an area where you knew all the business owners. You're like starting from scratch, right? So let's go back when you first said, hey, maybe it's time. I find it unusual. Like most people would have, I said, shied away from that. You didn't. What were some of the thought processes that you and your family went through?
So I felt like in my career, I sort of hit a little bit of a plateau or a ceiling, or at least I saw the ceiling sort of coming. I was a W-2 employee. When I was 17, 16, I sort of told myself, like, at some point it would be nice to be a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
For about 10 years, I was working with business owners. Then I realized that I did want to be a business owner from my experience with them. But then again, I saw the ceiling, and I went back to what originally motivated me, all those years ago to even get into business in the first place. And I sort of said, okay, well, now might be the time because of the ceiling primarily. My wife, who has sort of been there from the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
encouraged me to just sort of like do what you want to do, like take the risk, give it a shot. And what was really cool about that part of this, my partner in crime here, is that she had actually zero lack of confidence in me being able to do this. So I had her encouraging me sort of from the beginning. I was sharing with her that I was feeling like I hit a plateau. I was feeling like I hit, sort of this ceiling. And then we were in an area that just wasn't surrounded by family. So we had the baby, as you mentioned, just turned a year. And, we look around and we're like, so who's going to help us do this thing? And we couldn't see anybody. So with this plateau, my wife sort of like hearing me complain a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and realized that I was a little bit stuck, plus the baby in a different area, we decided, all right, now's, we want to be around family. She has a lot of support, behind me. And I, in the back of my mind, sort of knew that there was a future for business ownership for me. Probably about I guess even 2 years ago, even at this point, is when it really started I started to think, and that's when I started to save some money. So financially, we got to a place where we were prepared. We had a lot of things calling us back to home, which is where I am now in New Jersey. And then I had this sort of, just desire to go out and remove the ceiling and figure out what I could accomplish both financially and in my career. And then one other thing I'll add, I was on vacation with my wife's family, and we were in a really nice area in Florida. Her friend is very well off, and or just her dad or her parents did really well. And we were having an adult beverage on a beach.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said, there's not a lot of W-2 employees that have houses here. And I said, there it is. That was like the one thing that got me over, because we were already sort of ready. We were thinking about it, but then we went back from that vacation and we started to put some things in motion.
And that was it.
That's right.
So how important was it to have family support?
It is quite literally the only thing that I would say without it, it's impossible. We'll just say it that way. And I think it's, my wife's going to be a stay-at-home mom. My parents, are retired. So I have and my brother and his wife now moved to close by. So I have all of these people that are like pummeling positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
I got you, by the way, when insert baby needs help, insert, got to stay at my parents' condo for 6 months, to your point, before I bought a house. Everybody was just sort of behind me. And, I named the company the Lotierzo Group because it's a group of quite literally my family.
Sure.
That's the only group that I have. I have a bunch of employees yet. So it was that I got you when you need me message, plus this just again unwavering confidence that I don't know where she got it from, because I don't have that confidence in me, but my wife and family did. So it was a combination of those two things that really helped.
I think it's so hard out there to be an entrepreneur and then to start something new, to have the people, I guess, at home doubting whether it's a good idea. It's just a lot of pressure. I mean, when you have people behind you supporting you, then it's almost like you go for broke. Like, hey, I'm all in. I'm going to get this thing done. Versus what I see oftentimes is, my foot's still on first base. I'm like, is this a good move? And everything is a contingency plan. Whereas like Cortez, you burn the ships and hey, we're off. Like I'm in. I'm committed. Curiosity question. One of the things that I've noticed when people are looking at a business is they're decided, hey, it's time. Like if I'm going to do it, now's the time. Like I don't want to go another 5 years because everything will change and I'm not going to be in the same spot that I'm in now, which sounds like that's where you were. And then you have your spouse or partners behind you 100%. And then here come the friends, not the family necessarily, but are you insane? I mean, what are you doing? Did you experience those people whispering at parties who've known you, maybe back where you used to live, saying, hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Did you experience that, or was everybody in your circle for this?
Dave, I feel like it was everybody was in my circle. And I just, this is going to sound terrible, but I had the appropriate boxes checked with my family, meaning if the people in my circle were going to say you're crazy, I would have said so be it. To your point, I already sort of made that decision. But then, when I sort of heck, just even when I made the announcement on LinkedIn, the amount of people that have reached out and said, you're going to be great. Excited for you, always saw this path. I was like, oh my goodness, I was so humbled and I experienced a feeling that I don't think I've ever felt, like when we got married, I just remember
You're invincible.
There was all of these people that were cheering for us. I'm like, that is such an incredible feeling. Look at all these people that love us. Right.
Yeah.
I had don't tell my wife this. I had a similar feeling. Not quite as exciting though. When I had those people reach out to me saying you got this, right? And it just sort of proved that a lot of the support. So I really lucked out, Dave, I think in just the community of people that had my back, not to mention none of them were business owners. None of them have experience in that. So I don't even know what the heck it means.
Mm-hmm.
Cause my friends are, I guess I'm called on the younger side, but they didn't know any different other than, they liked me, believed in me, and they saw my family supporting it as well.
That's awesome. I found that, and it's just human nature, and it didn't happen to you, which you're lucky, which is you and your family decide, hey, we're doing it. Then you go and you have, the neighborhood get-togethers, and you're out with your buddies and X, Y, and Z, and next thing you know, they start talking you out of it, not because necessarily you don't think you could do it, but it's also in a way they're looking in the mirror, like, hey, if you do it, what am I doing? Like, why am I not doing it? So therefore you shouldn't be doing it. And they want to bring you back into the mediocrity. Hey, come back into the the W2 world like I am, because I don't want to do what you're doing, Doug. So therefore stay with me. I've just seen it my whole life,
Yeah.
as I talk to people in franchising. And before I move to a different topic, how important is it? And you know this because of the business that we're in, but also your personal experience, having your head on straight, like that, this mental, like the mind game, right? It's one thing to know Sandler and learn Sandler, and you've got to go do it, and you're going to get rejected more than you win and all that stuff. So there's a lot of head trash. There's a lot of mindset going on. How important does that play, do you think, in that first year?
It's interesting you say that, Dave. I had about a 3.5 month period from when I left my former employer to now, to the one I started the business. So one other just wrinkle of what makes this hard is like your income goes to zero, right? As
Yeah.
you know, it's just absolutely zero. So we bought a really big house, like most people do when their income goes to zero. So I had like all that, sort of pressure building up on me. So I, I was frustrated, that I had to wait, and that I waited for a period of time, to get rolling. And it's just a part of the buying process, and it's just the way things go. And a little bit naive to think that I could like leave one day and start a business the next, right? So
Yeah.
I sort of had this holding pattern I was in, and I had a chance to like get through or get prepared rather for the head trash. So I spent a lot of time like building a business plan and building out my business development plan and doing research and building out my sales process and all the things I think I needed so that when I would get started, I had a sort of a leg up. But then I also did a lot of like, I don't want to call it journaling because it's not quite that, but just thinking and making notes on here's all the pain that I know I'm going to experience,
Mm-hmm.
and getting my brain like sort of ready for that and almost like dealing with it before it happened.
Yeah.
And I was like coaching myself and sharing with my wife and other people that I trusted, like, here's what's going on in my head and here's what I'm afraid of. And they like talked me off a ledge. And so I got all of that sort of dialed in as a result of this delay that I was experiencing, such that when I was there, it's not that the head trash didn't happen. It's just that the valleys were so much shorter because I knew it was coming. Like, I have to make cold calls. This sucks. I hate this. Someone just hung up on me and I don't want to pick up the phone for the rest of the day.
Right.
Oh, wait, you knew that this was coming, dude.
Right.
Keep going. So there was this like mental prep period that I had the opportunity, what it ended up being an opportunity to go through. And it made the ramp, the head trash ramp, just a little bit shorter. And it's all still there, but it's like I just like built up the armor. I had the opportunity to do so. So it's an interesting thing to talk about because I was again frustrated, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, and I haven't even thought about it until you just said it, but let's talk about your time in that 3-month period of time. You've got an awful lot of people who've decided, okay, I want to be in the Sandler world, but yet I've got to wait for a bonus, or I've got to give my employer 90 days, or whatever the case may be. And oftentimes I see 2 groups of people, right? Or maybe 3. One doesn't know what to do, and that's fine. We'll help them. The other group's like, hey, I'm just going to rest until I'm ready because I know it's going to get tough coming up. And the other ones are preparing, like you did, for go day. Like, this is, I'm in, let's go. And so for that group who says, look, I want to use my time wisely, and maybe I've gone to initial training, but I'm really not going to start for 3 months. There's a lot of different variations. What did you really focus in? I heard you say a couple things, but help me understand, if I were sitting in a position like I've got 3 or 4 months before I actually start the business. Doug, what should I be doing to minimize my angst, increase my success rate?
Yeah.
Just give us a couple things that you really focused in on.
Sure. So I'll sort of speak to my experience, and then maybe look outward and think that, if you're coming into this business, a lot of people do come in with some sort of experience in sales, and some sort of experience in sales leadership. And whether you're in sales or sales leadership, you probably have a sense of like what a business plan or at least a sales plan might look like. And fortunately for me, I came from the world of, just have familiarity with sales. And I asked myself, I said, if I were to coach a selling professional on how to build, or a business owner on how to build a territory,
You're your own client.
What would one need?
Yeah.
Right. So I became my own client, and what I landed on was, well, they need a dialed in sales process. So like, what does the sales process look like from the moment you say hello to somebody and introduce yourself to the moment they, sign a contract or cut you a PO? I asked myself, what are all the objections that I'm going to run into, and what are all the responses that I'm going to come up with? What's my scripting for reaching out to people? What is my ideal client profile? What is my cookbook, or the Sandler terminology cookbook? What is my sort of activity plan?
Yeah,
How much of each activity am I going to be doing? And then I also got really curious. I read 3 books in my life, seemingly leading up to this venture, and I read about 6 between when I left and when I got started, and a lot of that I wanted to just educate myself on some Sandler books I read. Dave, I read yours actually. I promise I'm not just saying that. The one that you updated the Sandler rules recently, and I also read a couple other business books. So it was business plan, it was process, it was scripting, it was messaging, and then it was like lists, right? Like, who the heck am I going to go target once I can hit go? And Zoom Info really helped with that. I know Sandler, that's been a godsend, by the way, just having that tool as a franchisee. But I built it, from scratch, and then I had a couple of people to reach out to when I got rolling.
I think people don't utilize that time as they should, right? If you think about it. So it's almost like in sports, you're visualizing before the event occurs, which is always proven out to be a successful strategy. So I like that. So let's fast forward now. You're in a territory, you didn't live there before. Now you're there. Walk people through, like, what was it like in the beginning? What did you do? I heard what you did when you're getting ready, but now you're there. Lots of people don't know people in their backyard, Doug. So it's either I've lived here my whole life, but I was traveling. Like, I know more people outside of my town than I do inside my town.
Yep.
Or they're in this mindset of, if I'm going to do it, and I'd also like to move either closer to my kids, or I'd like to, be over in XYZ area of the country. The problem is, David, I don't know anybody there, and I'm at a disadvantage. Well, you're in the same boat. So walk us through what your business looked like in that first 3 to 4 months, like all the things that you were doing, and understand what you did ahead of time. But now we're there. Walk people through who are thinking about experiencing the same thing that you did.
Yeah. I will, I guess, start by saying, like, it is not fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that I look forward to. I mean, I like the work in this business, not the business development side of things. So, again, for those familiar with DISC, I'm a CS, and that just means, like, you shouldn't be talking to humans, or you shouldn't be, going out there and being in sales. But I know it's necessary. So it was painful, and still is. But I asked myself, what would I do if I were to, coach somebody? And I, read a couple of books on prospecting and how to sort of modernize the way that you go to market.
Okay.
And that led me to I'll say another mindset that I went into this with is no different than any investment portfolio. You need to diversify. So you can't just bang the phones, which is what I was used to. You can't just go to networking events. You can't just, do marketing. Yeah. So I said, all right, I need to diversify my portfolio. So I made a list of different prospecting sort of method approaches, activities. And those are just direct cold outreach. People say it doesn't work. It totally does. I can point to clients that, and I'm fortunate to say, like, like, if you just do stuff, you get a result. Dare I say. So there's direct outreach. There was networking groups that I would target. There was a LinkedIn strategy where it was, at least 2 times a week, I'd post what I'll call thought leadership.
Okay.
And David Sandler might not love the fact that I'm saying this, but we'll call it free consulting that gets put out to the market.
Mhm.
Here's some helpful tips. Here's some ideas. And people would respond to that and engage with that post, and that turned into a couple of leads. There was a few people that I did know up here. And when I say few, I mean few. And I reached out to those folks and I just said, let me tell you what I do and see if there's anybody, in the business community that you can hook me up with.
As a referral source?
As a referral source. Okay. Correct. Yeah. So there was this direct outreach to strangers. Then there was this direct outreach to strangers and some people that I know that would be referral sources. So there's like, how do I get in front of the ideal customer directly versus how do I, network with other people that are in the business community? So it was those two things. It was the LinkedIn strategy, the networking events. I would reach out to every the executive director or president of every association in hopes of telling them what I do to see if it would be a fit. I would also ask them who the board members were that were super engaged in the association. And then I reached out to those board members and told them what I did. And certainly the mission was to have them tell me, yes, you would be a benefit to the membership. But also, delivering a good 30-second commercial could land in someone generating some interest. So I actually got some interest from reaching out to some board members who, by the way, are business owners and that's my ideal client profile, et cetera. Nice. I also reached out to these associations in hopes of not just joining, but participating. So educational events, sitting on boards. I'm actually going to be starting up an education committee within an organization where it'll afford me the opportunity to spearhead the building of an education schedule that, oh, by the way, I can partake in.
Sure.
Right? So there was a lot of that. And I will say the thing that I was passionate about and really believed in when I was doing the direct outreach was, I think that the reason reaching out to strangers doesn't work is because, or people believe that is because they're strangers. So your mission is to not make it feel like you're reaching out to a stranger. So everybody that I reached out to, my mission was to warm it up. How do I warm up the outreach? So I would do research to figure out what they posted on LinkedIn. Was their company hiring? Did their company win any awards? Did they recently merge or acquire any organizations? Something that I can reference so that I can say, you and I don't know each other. You weren't expecting my phone call. I saw that your business recently acquired ABC company that's usually a sign for growth. I moved my business up to New Jersey. I'm reaching out to fellow business owners. Why don't I tell you what I do?
Okay.
Right. So it was like kind of warming it up as a part of the direct outreach. It was this kind of somewhat diversified portfolio of activities. There's probably 5, 6, 7 different avenues that I wanted to pursue there. And I just decided how much I'm going to do of each. And I tracked all of it.
Okay.
What's working and what's not working. And the last thing I'll say that I was really passionate about was, it's funny, 5 months into this business, I've probably gotten solicited as a business owner now, hundreds of people reaching out to me, 0 phone calls. They're all messages. They're all email. They're all LinkedIn. So I told myself, my differentiator is my ability to pick up the phone. So I did as much phone work, in those avenues.
Well, you stand out in these days, right? No one's doing it. To your point.
Yeah. They were like, who the heck is this guy calling? So it was a mix, but then it was also some like sort of a philosophy of warming it up and doing it, in a slightly different way that I think I was really motivated to try and see how impactful it was.
So talk to me about your time. Let's call them time blocks for a minute, right? So obviously Sandler talks about behavioral plans. I'm going to put that to a side for a second because most of the audience wouldn't know what that is. But let's just talk about time blocks. Or in the beginning, let's just do the first 90 days. And where are you today? Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm spending, 38%, 40, 50, whatever it is on outbounds or at least getting client development. I'm spending X amount of time on the admin stuff, the marketing stuff, all that good stuff, the business owner stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm spending X amount of time on whatever. Can you kind of walk us through what it was and what it is today now that is it 5 months into it now?
Yeah. So I'm a little bit of a weirdo when it comes to time management. I track every minute of every day. So offline, Dave, I'm happy to show you the actual data. I don't have it in front of me, but I could tell you like what percentage exactly in each category,
Yeah,
right? But I'll tell you that right out of the gate, it was 15% sort of business owner setup stuff.
yeah. Okay.
Probably another 15% in prep. So like just the research that comes with it, I would try to do that a little bit earlier in the morning or in the evenings. But whatever percentage is left, what's that? 70% is left. That was just very much business development, and it was a combination of being on the phone, going and executing the plan,
Okay.
right? But then once you get meetings, then it's running those sales meetings. So eventually, like it would turn into just like a block of time, and I would try to shoot for 1 hour sprints because I know it's a lot. But a
Right.
1 hour sprint, my mission is 10 outreaches per hour. That's what I sort of landed on, and I just block off these 1 hour sprints of time, and eventually I get to probably 100 outreaches is probably what I landed on, 75 to 100 early on, and then once you start getting a few meetings, then you bake in prep for those meetings because I'm a prepper.
Follow-ups and all that other stuff that you have to do.
Exactly. So I would say it was just heavy prospecting, and then prospecting became sales. Once you get in some meetings, and I'll draw a differentiator between the two, and then you get them some clients, and then it becomes the client work. To your point of what does it look like today, and the clients become great sales resources for you as well. And I've been fortunate to where some of the clients I've brought on have turned into hooking me up with their buddies.
Nice.
As a result of so less cold prospecting is really my mission.
Yeah, sure. As in everybody, right? So you spent maybe 30% on non-selling stuff,
Yeah.
right? I'll call account development. And as you went into it, it may be still a 70-30, but your 70 changes from outbound to actually call, follow up, all that other stuff. And you're probably going to have to add some percentage, I guess. Maybe it's not a true 70-30 as far as nurturing and growing and training clients, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the mix.
Sure.
What does your business look like now? Like, how are you structured? Do you have people helping? Are you by yourself?
It's just me. I have at this point, I think 7 recurring retainer clients.
Okay.
And I'm managing all of that, by
On your
myself.
own?
Yeah.
Okay.
My wife helps with some invoicing. My spouse helps with some invoicing. And I'm going to be partnering, I think, with some other franchisees on some work. For example, I'm getting into a training cohort. Nice thing about Sandler is you have other people that do what you do. We're going to be doing some essentials training and some public
Nice.
training as a team, which is really, really nice. So it's me managing it mostly. I have won some business in the form of projects, so I wouldn't call them part of the 7. But I would say it's that model. A lot of private sort of consulting work to start as I kick off relationships, and then I'm going to be throwing them into a lot of our public training here as they get onboarded.
Okay. Got a question for you. If you were to do it again, and again, I mean, that's not too far away, you just started, would you have done anything different now that you're 5 months into it?
Would I have done anything different?
Like, I'd spend more time on this, or, hey, I probably would have done this a little differently. I mean,
Yeah.
as trainers, we're our own worst enemy. Like, I beat myself up 6 ways to Sunday, and I know you probably do the same. If there's any tweaks, and maybe it's not, hey, I would have thrown that whole thing out, I would have done it differently, but maybe I would have tweaked this a little bit. I would have done this. And I think that may be of value for people who are 5 months behind you.
Yeah. The first thing that came to mind is I just know that I could do more activity. And I think as I think through the early days, especially knowing there is a lot to do, it's very easy to go and shift gears to get your website ready, or futz around on LinkedIn, or I don't know, read a book or research something or something in Sandler Online, get that set up, whatever it is. And it's a painful question, Dave, damn it. As I sit here and kick myself, because I've proven, to myself that, like, if you just pick up the phone and call people and you have a message that resonates, you can get business. And I do not, and I know that I have not done enough of that to date. So it's almost like, sure, it was a good volume, but did I really leave it all out on the field? to kind of set myself up. No, I didn't. And, leaving today's conversation, I may
reevaluate.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's hard as an entrepreneur. First of all, it's lonely, and you have a wonderful wife supporting you, but it is just a lonely business. And for you not to get trapped into doing some of the other stuff as you're growing, it's natural.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think as I look back, there's certain things that I know were successful. So therefore, David, why didn't I do 5 times more of that? I mean, what are you doing here? At the time, I wouldn't have said it, but as you look back, I guess I could say it, much like you're thinking about it as well. Hey, I know we're about up for time here. If you were talking to somebody who is 5 months behind you, any words of wisdom? I mean, you've now experienced, you talked about cohorts, the Sandler culture of people helping each other. So you're really not an island on your own. I mean, that could be something. There's just a lot of stuff that we could talk about. But if you had to, I guess, pick something that was either an aha moment for you, or, hey, just make sure you don't do this, or I just have found this to be just a wonderful surprise. I'll let you kind of pick what avenue you want to go down.
So quick caveat, is it pre-decision to join or post?
How about one of each if you have one?
Yeah. So I'll do pre. And okay. The first thing is I think that it is really important for a prospective franchisee to be shot very straight. Like here is all the head trash that you're going to experience, all the mental struggles. Here's what your spouse support needs to look like. Here is what we mean when we say business development, and all the activity that goes into it. Here is exactly what people will say to you, and you need to be okay with hearing that stuff. Yeah. I don't care what your experience is. You need to go into this with like a ton of humility, because
be humble,
right? Like you need to listen to people, because I think I have made all of those mistakes in not recognizing all of the things that are truly needed, and I almost want to turn people off from making the decision, and them coming back and fighting for it because they believe in it so much. So it's in true Sandler fashion. We want to disqualify as opposed to so I would want Sandler. I would want individuals to disqualify themselves. Because if they qualify themselves, then they're really going to be successful because they check off the appropriate expectation boxes.
Yeah.
I've now made the decision. I'm just getting started. That is the easiest one for me possible, and that is you need to hang out with people who are good at this business, and ask a whole bunch of questions about how they did it, and learn what good looks like from the people that have demonstrated as much. I'm part of a new franchisee group with a franchisee coach. I have the pleasure of working with some other franchisees that have been in the business for a while to do that cohort that I mentioned. I have a group of 8 other franchisees that I'm going to be getting together with twice a year to just share best practices with. And at the very least, you leave motivated. At the very most, you leave with exactly what you need to do, because here's exactly what I did. And by the way, what I would have done differently, to your point, so don't make that mistake again. So I think that if you were to ask me what attracted me to Sandler, without a doubt, number one is the community of people that are all successful. They all want to get better, and as successful as they are, they don't carry with them an ego. In that they're willing to help you no matter where you are in your career with Sandler, no matter where they are in their career at Sandler. So I think it's a combination of those two things from an expectation standpoint and a advice standpoint that I pass along to any franchisee.
I would add 2 things here as an observer, since you and I interacted throughout that process. I thought you were really good at throwing whatever the issue was on the table, so you didn't have to deal with it on your own. It was, hey, how do you help me overcome X, Y, and Z? And not to try to be Hercules and do it on your own, I thought was admirable. And I in my mind, I thought it actually helped, because you were tapping into our hindsight, our expertise early on. Yep. The second thing that you said, which I don't think a lot of people give credit to, is what we provide our clients is a safe environment for them to brainstorm, share what's working and not working, which is what you're doing with the other franchisees. And that's what we do for our clients. You're actually replicating the same experience for yourself that you offer to your clients.
Right.
And that's magical. And it's worked since David Sandler did it in the late 70s. You know, we train 52,000 people a year this way, and it's just amazing. So you are what I call a product of the product when it comes to that. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you jumping on today. I know you're super busy, and just sharing your story. And I look forward to seeing you at an upcoming conference.
Yep, Dave, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Look forward to keeping in touch with you and seeing you.
For more information on Sandler franchising opportunities, go to sandler.com/franchising. And don't forget to subscribe to the No Guts, No Gain podcast on your favorite app.